Okay, I've had it. Representative John Lewis and the stunts that he's doing or the stunts that he's performing for the Democratic Party is getting on my last nerves. Oh, God, where do I start? I respect everything that John Lewis has done in terms of his work socially. The progress that he made in the 60s, marching with Martin and others, I respect that wholeheartedly. But here's my problem. John Lewis declares that Donald Trump is not a legitimate president. In doing so, what he has done is he has taken every honest, God fearing, or God not fearing American citizen that voted for Donald Trump and has declared that their vote was not legitimate. How dare he? How dare he stand and believe that he somehow, because he was struck in the head with an object by a police officer in the 60s, that somehow gives him the right or the grounds to stand and to delegitimize Donald Trump on the basis of what? When I hear people talk about Donald Trump not having experience, well, most people, that just lets you know how ignorant they are anyway, because most people with half brain of intelligence know that the country that we call the United States of America is, for all intents and purposes, a corporation. If you look at the structure, you look at how it's operated, it is a corporation. And so if you were to look at all the past presidents that we've had, particularly the last 5 or 6 presidents, none of those presidents had corporate or experience running a large business corporations. Donald Trump has that. When we talk about our most recent president, Barack Obama, whom I did not vote for, but I respect his work. Even most people are upset with Barack because of the gay things and the stuff that he voted for, and seemed like his overemphasis on this one particular social group or one people group. It just really kind of rubbed most people the wrong way. It rubbed me the wrong way. I thought he was just, a little bit too happy with the gay promotion, even when the guy who was a professional athlete received a phone call because he came out and said his sexual proclivities, that he received a honorable mention and a call from the president. I thought that was foolishness. But given all that he had to inherit, speaking of Barack Obama, given all he inherited from Bush, and given the circumstances which his presidency came about, no one can say that he did a bad job. Because again, given what he started with, given the tools, and given given the state of our union at that time, we were in bad shape, and many people predicted that we wouldn't come out of it. But we're now out of it. Our stock market is doing a little better, and we are now a better. We're better. We are better as a country because of Barack Obama. So Barack Obama was not a bad president. I disagree with him on many of his Barack Obama's decisions, particularly the ones to pull out of Iraq and some of the other things. But overall, considering all that he had to deal with and all that he inherited, he didn't do a bad job. But now, let's be honest. Barack Obama, prior to becoming president of the United States, was senator, and prior to that, he was a community activist. Now, if someone out there can define to me or explain to me what that actually means, a community activist, what is that? What does a community activist do? I mean, I get that they're activists or organizers, community organizers. What do they do? Well, they organize the community to what? To what? I don't know, organize picnics, or what, they organize the community to do what? I mean, and I'm being facetious, and I understand what a community organizer does, kinda, but it's nothing like being a CEO of a corporation, that's for sure. And most successful individuals. If you look at their record, and most when they write their memoirs, they talk about how many times they failed. So even the media now talking about, well, Trump, he ran this business underground. This business wasn't successful. That's the hallmark of a great businessman. That's a hallmark of a great entrepreneur. One who does not give up when they fail. One who recognizes that's part of growing a business is taking chances. So that's not a good excuse. So this idea that somehow Trump is not a legitimate president, or he is not legitimate. Look, he's as qualified as any of the other guys that we've had in the last 5 or 6 presidencies. So I'm for the guy. Now, I didn't vote for him. It's twofold. If I had to cast my lot, I would have went for Trump. But circumstances came about where I could not make it to the polls that day. If I thought that my vote was going to make a difference for him in California, I would have, drug myself down there no matter how I felt that particular day. So here we are, John Lewis. We're 4 days out from the inauguration, and John Lewis is saying that he's not going to go. My question is, was he going to go anyway? A lot of these guys, they, for this stuff, this is kind of like the silly season. All season, they stay home with their families or, take care of stuff in their district. So, many of the Democrats or Republicans probably weren't going to go even if Hillary became president. So with that said, I don't know how much, weight we should give that. Of course, the media is saying that, oh my God, he's not going, as though that's significant. Well, hey, well, maybe you can give a seat to somebody who can, who wants to work with the president-elect and who wants to try. Because that's what it's all about. In the spirit of entrepreneurship, we failed at a lot of things as a country. And Donald Trump is saying, let's try again. Let's try something. Let's reignite some things. We know some things that work. We have a long history, positive and negative. We know some things that work. We've experienced some successes and we've experienced some failures. So now let's take some of those experiences and see what we can do. Let's see if we can make things better for everybody, for the inner city, for immigrant population. For me, so-called African American, I like to be defined as a Negro because African American is a relatively new term. So, a Negro has been around for 500-600 years, and I'm more comfortable with being identified as Negro than I am with all the other adjectives that were used to describe the so-called colored, black, Negro, African American, Afro American, yada yada yada. And by the way, and my grandmother was 100% Cherokee. So in that case, and I have the documentation, she wasn't a $5 Indian, grew up on the reservation. In that case, I would be a quarter Native American. Okay. For identifying purposes, I am a Negro, but mostly I'm an American. Have a wonderful day.